Starting off our desert adventure to meet the bestest of boys, we get to help out Alcarid's most reputable businessman, as reported in Morrisane Monthly, one Ali Morrisane, who wants us to find his poor nephew Ali in the small town of Polnivnich, south of the pass. So, a fun fact about Ali is he will always sell you something when you leave conversations with him. In this case, we got a bronze pickaxe, and then purchased a fake beard and a hat, because that seems like a fun thing to do. Polnivnich is a wonderful town full of altruistic citizens, if you ignore that business a while ago where everyone changed their name to get some guy's inheritance, with a wonderful nightlife if you ignore the near constant gang crime. And one of these citizens is Jalal the Drunk, who has taken his alcoholism hobby to a level of formal title, which is frankly impressive. And in exchange for a platter of beers that we legally served with our newly obtained Gielinor bartending license, he tells us that Ali got involved with both of the local gangs, which consists on some ruffians from Menefos in one and strappy local lads in the other. Talking to a few of the thugs, it turns out that they're fighting over a stolen camel that, from the Menefite perspective, the bandit stole, and from the bandit perspective, the Menefite stole. Being the reasonable person that we are, we just go and buy each gang a camel so that they can be happy and shut up. They're not happy. Fine. I tried to be reasonable. I tried to be nice and amiable and solve the problem. No, we're gonna get rid of both of the gangs now. So first we need to join a gang to be able to dismantle them from the inside. And the more approachable gang is the Menephites, since they at least will talk to me. And Rashid the operator will let us join, provided that we go and do crimes for him. So the first crime is to pickpocket 3 villagers in a very poorly disguised tutorial for the lure and knockout pickpocketing method that was released with this quest, which is easy enough for a criminal of our status. The second crime is to rob the mayor's wife by breaking into their villa, using the keys to the front door that Rashid just happens to have. Okay. In classic home security fashion, the mayor left a clue to the safe combination out in plain view, so we open that sucker up, grab some jewels, and return to Rashid. Our last crime is not really a crime. He wants us to find the traitor in their midst, which is traitorous Hisham, which they really shouldn't have needed me to find out, considering that every Menefite that we talk to knows that it's traitorous Hisham. But the upside is this snitching comes with a side of assassination instead of the stitches one normally gets. And to facilitate this assassination, we opt to poison his beer with the aid of Mesa the Hag, who totally is not named Ali. It seemed to be I'm not sure if there's a callback to the original version of the quest, or a bit of dialogue that wasn't caught when they changed all of the names from Ali to other things. But for those of you who don't know, the original version of this quest and the version of this that's in Oldschool Runescape is everyone in town is named Ali. And there's a lot of dialogue relating to trying to find Ali and being very specific about which Ali you're talking about. And they all changed their name to get some inheritance. So the old school version changed it so that after you finish the quest, they get proper names again. And the RuneScape 3 version, they just got rid of it because on later retrospection, they kind of realized that naming the town in the desert all named Ali is a little bit culturally insensitive. But back to the topic at hand, Mesa the Hag requests a desert snake, which we can easily catch in a basket with the aid of a lovely flute, and some camel dung, which we get a camel to do its business with the aid of some El Diablo hot sauce from the kebab shop. After unceremoniously and irresponsibly dumping the poison in Hisham's unattended drink, we go back to Rashid, assuming that the job was done correctly. Now, we're a proper member, and of course the Menifite leader wants us dead for being too effective, and also he's a cultist. So we just kind of kill his best man, and problem solved, right? Well, no, this doesn't sit well with the villagers, because instead of two gangs who are spending most of their time fighting each other, there is now only one gang who has absolutely nothing to do, so we need to kind of even out this balance with a bit more murder. So we go to the bandits and then kill their champion and threaten their leader so he goes out of town. And having now dismantled both gangs in town, the villagers are still not happy, but at the very least the mayor tells us that Ali's nephew wasn't here in the first place. And we basically did all of this for effectively nothing. Reporting this to Ali Morrisane reveals that there's things that don't line up, and it turns out that this quest was just a massive tourism ad for Paul Neefledge. And our reward is the ability to spend more of our limited money on things that we kind of don't need. And even with that, Ali still manages to sell us a chicken. Damn it. Alrighty, this will be quick. Quest number 76, we find ourselves wandering aimlessly in the desert to these old ruins off to the east. In there is a little broken guy, so using some of our handy pocket clay, we fix him up, and it turns out that he is a battle golem that was made to fight demons. As in, he wants to kill a specific demon who is invading through a portal deeper in these ruins, and wants us to help. So we go and investigate, and it turns out that the Varrock Museum has been here and took one of these little statues in the alcoves, which is well and properly glitching the door out, so we go to the museum and steal it back. Heading back to Uzer, we put the statue back, prepare for an epic battle with the demons, those were the statues that opened the portal, and the demon's been dead for quite a while. Looting the throne, since I doubt we're getting paid for this, we leave to inform the golem that the demon is dead, but since our little friend is made out of clay and is the ancient equivalent of a robot, he needs a little software patch. So pushing patch version 4.11.5 to update the mortality status of the demon, we get to complete the quest. Said it would be quick. Now that we have a taste for desert archaeology, we go and talk to Asgarnius Smith, who apparently discovered both the Temple of Igov, where we almost stole a staff for a shady guy in a shed, as well as the Brimhaven Agility Arena, where we will do our very best to never step foot there. And of course, he needs our help to find an ancient artifact. So after some dull translation back and forth with an old tablet, we find that there's this treasure of 4 diamonds buried in the desert somewhere. So Asgarnius suggests that we split up and search independently, him taking the northern part of the desert and us taking the southern part. Being sensible people, we figure that asking locals might produce useful information, so let's ask around this bandit camp, which despite the name is full of very friendly and helpful folk. Scratch that, it's full of very friendly and helpful folk when you buy stuff from them. Turns out the diamonds we are looking for are called the Diamonds of Aznadra, and some guy named Eblis knows more about their history. Eblis gives us a lovely lore dump about this little town's history, which I shall now paraphrase. So, a long time ago, the ancestors of the people who live in what is now called the Bandit Camp served a great god whose empire stretched across the land, who was then banished, and the ancestors were left to survive against the armies of both Saradomin and Zamorak, losing all of their lands and forced to live in the desert. They had a great hero named Aznadra, who was defeated and imprisoned in a pyramid, access to which was sealed by 4 diamonds which are held by warriors of Zamorak. To get into the pyramid for our treasure, we need to find these 4 warriors, beat the shit out of them, and take the diamonds back. To assist in this subquest of our primary quest of getting a great treasure, Eblis needs a bunch of steel, a bunch of glass, and magic logs to make some magic mirrors to lock onto the general location of the diamonds. The first two are things that are very easy for us to get, but magic logs are a little bit trickier, since most of the things that drop them are way outside our weight class, and after a cheeky little update to woodcutting, you need 80 instead of 75, which is a lot more XP. Or do you? Turns out that when Jagex updated the levels for trees to be on the 10s, they missed updating the evil tree distraction and diversion. It still uses the old woodcutting levels, and we can just get them from there. Which we did. Here's the clip. Hurrah! Ow. Mirrors built, we can now find out roughly where the diamonds might be, with a 33% chance of error. Our locations of note are the camp, which doesn't seem right, Canifis, Trollheim, the pyramid we're trying to get into, some weird well that happens to be nearby, and this random garden that's somewhere near the waterfall. So we can do these in any order, so let's start with the one that sucks most from my recollection. Far to the north of Trollheim, we head to where the mirror pointed at to find this little troll child sobbing because his parents got captured by some bad man. Because they took his diamond. Well, we want this diamond, so let's save some trolls. Again, this area is absolutely ass, with the cold being so severe we lose stats every few seconds, burning through our precious restore potion supplies at a disturbingly quick rate. After a short detour of murdering 5 of our child troll's family friends, we find ourselves at Camel, the warrior of Reykjavik. Camel goes and freezes us, which makes this fight take way longer than it realistically should, considering that he is comically weak to fire spells. But he gives us some cake and a super restore, which we will love and cherish and hopefully not use until we can make them ourselves. And then following this weird ice path, we eventually get to the parents, who we unfreeze, and they inform us that the diamond that we wanted was with the kid the whole time at the start. So we could have avoided this entire thing by being an ass. Second diamond we're going for is the blood one, which is unsurprisingly located in Canifis. Lacking any other leads, we continue our tradition of trying the pub first, where we get introduced to Malik, who seems somewhat important. It turns out that Malik is indeed somewhat important, as he happens to know where the diamond is, provided that we kill its owner, some old guy named Decius. So, Decius is so old, he's constantly having old mad naps in his coffin, so we need to wake him up by waving a vampy snack in front of his face, but because he's an old vampire, and thus a powerful vampire, Malik advises that we mildly poison him first, so we're fighting in at least the same weight class. Kinda like giving Mike Tyson some laxatives so he's off his game. The laxatives in this case is some tasty blood in a blessed silver pot, seasoned with garlic and spices, which sounds like most of a black pudding recipe, so I think we might be just making dinner. Ronton, who is lurking in the drainer sewer, happens to know how to make a silver pot. That is the correct specifications for the arbitrary bullshit, which we get while trying to stay upwind of him because this man lives in the sewers. We then get the High Priest of Entrana to bless it for us, who does not ask any questions about why this random person showed up in the middle of the day and just asked them to bless a pot made out of silver, but whatever. And then we grab our seasoning, and then we just need to find some blood. So we ask the resident vampire where he gets his drinks, and he just shanks us, so I guess that works? Remembering to season our tasty blood, and we are ready to go. So Decius gets his treat and obliges to fight us in the ring for 12 rounds. He hits us with everything that he's got, which is basically bats, claws, and spitting blood at us. And after a tense match of we're totally using the wrong spell for his particular weakness, we manage to kill him, and he doesn't have the diamond. It turns out that Malik got us to kill a rival for him, and that Malik had the diamond the whole time. But at the very least, he keeps his word, so that's 2 diamonds done. Third is the smoke diamond, which is located somewhere down this well in the middle of the desert. As one should do when entering areas with bad air quality, we put a face mask on. In here, there's this burnt chest, which we need to open by lighting 4 braziers that could not be further away from each other if you tried. Well, we would light it if we didn't do the diamond that drains all your stats first, and thus we have no fire making level. Hold please, let me fix that. Okay, it's fixed now. Let's actually light these things. Nothing like some heavy cardio when your breathing is restricted. But we lighted them all, and we get to open the chest with the key to get to this other gate where Farid is actually located. Farid is not too bad. His thing is mostly that he's a hot and smoky guy, so if you don't have ice gloves, you can't hurt him. Which in the original version of the quest, that only held true for melee weapons. It now holds true for all evolution of combat. But we got those ages ago, so he goes down pretty easily, and the diamond of air pollution is ours. Last is the shadow diamond, where our clue is this random garden next to the waterfall. But there's a fellow wandering around named Rizzolo the Merchant, who turns out to happen to be the exact correct person to talk to and has all of the information we need, which includes that the location of our dungeon is hidden in the Shadow Realm, and we need a special ring to be able to see it. Which Rizzolo just happens to have this special ring, and will just happen to give it to us if we happen to steal back a gilded cross that was stolen by some guy in the bandit camp that we started the whole quest in. So, back to the desert we go, and after a little bit of poking about, we find the cross in this chest that is sitting just unattended, asking to be picked open. Now, this chest here is 3 separate cylinders with pick-breaking security pins, which makes it an absolute nightmare of RNG, but with a little bit of luck, this should not take too long. Well, 20 tries is pretty good. I think that's pretty much on par for 55 thieving. It's kind of not the sort of thing that you really get solid calculation of, since any given account can only do it once. But we now have the cross and we can go back to Rizzolo to get a ring. And behold, there's a dungeon that we couldn't see before, full of skeletons and bats and spooky doggos that we're not allowed to pet. Also this Damas guy who holds the diamond, but who cares about that? There's dogs. I want to pet the dogs. Why can't I pet the doggos? They're shadow doggos. Damas has 2 phases. The first is just a regular melee fight, but then he takes his shirt off and the sheer power of his pecs wound our prayers. But, fortunately, he can be safe spotted by basically everything in existence. I'm actually honestly surprised that he can't be safe spotted by dropping an item on the ground. But in this particular case, this friendly little enthusiastic bat will be our fence of choice. So he goes down trivially, and we get our last diamond. Back to Eblis with our shiny pre-treasure, and we get another lore dump in which we find out that Azanadra's life force and power was stored in these diamonds. And that was basically what's powering the thing that's keeping him stuck in the pyramid. So we stick them in the 4 obelisks around the pyramid to unlock the door, and we get to go through this fun place of multiple levels of horrible pyramid maze with traps you can't possibly see, detect, and you just randomly wander into. Reaching the end after only falling out of the pyramid once, we find ourselves in this lovely little room with an altar and the ghostly figure of Azanadra, who is RuneScape 3's best boy. You can fight me. I will not back down from this. Azanadra is very confused what's going on, since the last time he was around, the God Wars were still going on and everything had different names. But after a chat, we get the best treasure in the game, which is magic XP, as well as access to ancient magics for when we feel like we just have too many runes and want to get rid of them. We also get the ability to lodestone to the middle of the desert for our fun and profit. Last up in our little desert adventure is Ichthorin's Little Helper, which is our second cat quest of the game. We start by chatting up this random wanderer who is just chilling in the desert and seems to have Illyriophobia. So being the nice people we are, we pick our fluffy friend up and stuff her unceremoniously in our backpack. Following that, the wanderer tells us that she knows a secret way into Sulfanim, a city to the south that's locked down, and then things get kind of wiggly and it turns out that we're now in the city, outside of a tomb, with a canoptic jar in our bag, and some dead guy who's very, very angry at us. Or trying to sell us his old condo. It's kind of hard to tell through the slurs. Touching the tomb door, we get to remember a little bit of what happened when everything was kind of wiggly. It turns out that we navigated this trap-filled tomb, opened up this puzzle door, and then we wake up. So that was mostly useless, and the ghost is just calling us a woo-woo-woo, and everyone else seems to have some sort of skin condition, is just generally grumpy. So let's talk to the Sphinx here, but maybe she'll help. Well, after a riddle in which we bet our cat, she helps us, and then she gives us a token so that the High Priest will talk to us. The High Priest basically tells us to do the logical thing, which is to put the human remains back in the tomb, and that we're an idiot. So off we go into the tomb, past all the traps, start to jump the pit, and we're in another flashback. I really hope that we didn't enter this flashback halfway over the pit, because there's kind of weird slime down there, and it's ugh. I don't want to fall. But continuing where we left off in the previous flashback, we make our way into the room, go to grab a jar, fight the guardian for that jar, and then we get the jar that we currently have in current time. So we get over the pit and we put the jar back, and everything is good now, right? Well, no, because we broke into the tomb, so we kind of messed up the consecration of the tomb, so now we get to fix that by gathering materials for other people. We need some sap, some linen, a holy symbol, and salt. Being borderline psychic, we have the sap already. I forgot the salt. And We buy some linen from the store, and we hand over some willow that we happen to be carrying around to the carpenter to carve the holy symbol. With the holy symbol in hand and the other stuff handed off to the embalmer so he can do his part, we head back into the tomb to fix this and get another flashback. Why can't we get flashbacks of things that we want to remember, like where I put my keys? It turns out that we also stashed an unholy symbol in the other room of the tomb, which probably isn't significant. Turns out it is significant, as it let the Wanderer, who was actually that scamp Amaskut, possess a priest, who we very easily kill, considering that we just slaughtered 4 ancient warriors of Zamorak an hour ago. I don't really know what she thought that Fred the priest, who totally is going to start cardio training next week so he can run a marathon eventually, could do to us, but he does give it his college try before dying. We get one final flashback of meeting Icthren, who gives us the biggest of doggy licks to wake us up before we could just wander out of the city with the jar and completely screw them over. But with that, we've made everything right, although another adventurer got duped into stealing something else, so they're still plagued. But at least the ghost isn't shouting slurs at us. And we get the cat speak amulet, so I can finally understand what my in-game cat is saying.